Hollywood used to tell queer actors the same lie. Be talented, be beautiful, but don't be gay where anyone can see it. That lie is cracking. Tonight on Silent Fame, we're counting down 10 young, gay, and unstoppable stars who are bending the rules until they snap. As we go, drop their number when a story hits home, tell us where you're watching from, and stay to the end for the name Hollywood still isn't ready for. 1. Jonathan Bailey, the leading man who refused to shrink. Jonathan Bailey was never supposed to be this kind of leading man. Not the Regency heartthrob, not the action franchise scientist, and definitely not the out-gay star who still gets to kiss the girl on a global Netflix hit. When he was young and closeted, he's talked about school feeling unsafe, like moving through the world in a costume that didn't fit, wrapped in a straitjacket of expectations. Then, he stepped into the industry and heard the quiet rule so many queer actors know too well. If you're openly gay, they won't cast you as the romantic lead. So he did what so many of us learn to do. Shrink, hide, make himself small enough to fit into other people's imagination of a marketable man. Until one day, he decided the price was too high. He came out anyway. Years later, the irony is almost painful. The same system that told him to stay invisible now sells him as the fantasy. Anthony Bridgerton, Fiyero in Wicked, the face of a new Jurassic World era, and one of the world's official sexiest men. But this isn't a neat fairy tale. With the crown came a different kind of weight. He's spoken about feeling the weight of history on his shoulders, knowing that when he leads a blockbuster as an out gay man, he doesn't get to be mediocre. He has to be excellent, or they'll say, "See? We tried the gay thing. It doesn't sell." Every costume fitting, every love scene, every press junket becomes evidence in a trial he never asked for. Some audiences genuinely celebrate him. Others reduce him to a label, fetishize his sexuality, or complain that we don't need to know who he sleeps with. So here's the question for you. Should an actor like Jonathan owe the world his label to begin with? Or should talent be enough, even in an industry that made queerness a marketing category? If you've ever been told to dim your light so someone else could stay comfortable, drop a 1 in the comments and tell us your story. And if you're glad kids now see a gay leading man riding dinosaurs and dancing in Oz, hit like and keep Jonathan in the algorithm where he belongs. 2. Kit Connor, the boy the internet forced to grow up. Kit Connor was just supposed to play a boy figuring himself out. Heartstopper gave the world Nick Nelson. Soft, confused, gentle in a way teen boys are rarely allowed to be. Fans fell in love with the character, and then they decided they needed the actor's real-life label too. When photos of Kit holding hands with a girl surfaced, the internet turned on him. Queerbaiting. Fake ally. Using us for clout. What began as representation turned into a witch hunt. He did what any overwhelmed teenager might do. He disappeared from Twitter, but the speculation didn't stop. It grew, louder and uglier, until he came back with one short message. He's bi, and congratulations to everyone who forced an 18-year-old to out himself before he was ready. Imagine being barely out of school, carrying not just your own confusion, but millions of strangers' expectations about how a proper queer icon should behave. The show literally teaches compassion for people still questioning, and some viewers completely miss the point. Here's the part that hurts. The people who pushed him were, in theory, on his side. They wanted representation so badly, they turned it into a demand. They called it accountability. To a kid, it felt like harassment. And still, Kit got back up. He kept filming Heartstopper. He kept working. He landed Romeo on Broadway and landed on Pride Power lists 3 years in a row. Not because he owed anyone proof, but because he kept doing the work. So let's be honest with ourselves. When we scream for labels from real people, are we fighting for justice or just feeding our curiosity? If you were ever pressured to decide your identity faster than your heart was ready, drop a 2 in the comments. And if you believe queer kids deserve time, privacy, and softness, even when they're famous, hit like and subscribe so stories like Kit's don't get drowned out by the noise. 3. Justice Smith, the franchise star who said, "Black, queer, and here." Hollywood would have preferred Justice Smith to stay simple. The funny sidekick in Detective Pikachu, the scared scientist in Jurassic World, bankable but quiet. Instead, during Black Lives Matter protests, he picked up his phone and did something much riskier than any stunt. He came out as queer and called out the movement for forgetting Black queer and trans people. He wrote that as a Black queer man, he was tired of people shouting Black Lives Matter, but going silent when queer and trans were added. In one post, he made himself vulnerable on 2 fronts, racism and homophobia. Knowing full well that both can cost you work, he also publicly loved another Black queer man, actor Nicholas Ash, in front of an industry that still whispers when 2 men of color hold hands. No studio PR spin, no careful press release, just raw truth and a kiss at a protest. That honesty made him a target for trolls who hate that Black and queer can exist in the same body, and for executives who prefer their franchise stars neutral. Every time he speaks about being Black and queer, he breaks an unspoken Hollywood rule. Be grateful, don't be political. But justice refuses to separate survival from politics. For him, being quiet would mean pretending Black queer lives are optional in the fight for justice. He could have stayed in the safety of franchise checks and photo calls. Instead, he chose to risk being too much, too outspoken, too gay, too Black, too honest. And he's still here, still booking roles, still insisting that we say all of it. Black lives, queer lives, trans lives. So what do you think? Should stars like Justice stick to acting, or is using their platform exactly what fame is for? If his courage hits something in you, drop a 3 in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. And if you want more stories of queer power that Hollywood tried to soften, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Because algorithms may ignore us, but together we're kind of unstoppable too. 4. Omar Ayuso, the Muslim boy who turned shame into a spotlight. Before Elite, Omar Ayuso was just a kid from a working-class barrio near Madrid, queer and Muslim in a world that told him those 2 things couldn't coexist. Home said sin. The street said weak. Auditions said, "Can you play straight?" Then Netflix called with a role that felt like a mirror and a dare. Omar Shana, a closeted gay Muslim boy trying not to lose his family, his faith, or himself. Overnight, his face was in living rooms across the planet. For queer Muslims, it felt like oxygen. Finally, someone who looked like them, prayed like them, loved like them. For others, it was blasphemy. He got DMs that said, "Thank you for showing me I'm not alone," and DMs that told him to die. Some people fetishized him as the forbidden Muslim, others accused him of attacking Islam. In the middle of all that noise was just Omar, young, anxious, wondering if his big break had also painted a target on his back. What makes him unstoppable isn't fearlessness. It's that he's scared and moves anyway. He talks openly about anxiety, about refusing to play only one kind of gay role, about how representation is messy and imperfect, but still worth fighting for. He could have chased safer scripts. Instead, He chose the story that might save someone he'll never meet. So you tell us, do shows like Elite go too far? Or are they finally telling truths the world has tried to bury? If you saw a piece of yourself in Omar Shana, drop a 4 in the comments. And if you're rooting for every queer kid torn between family and freedom, hit like and keep his story alive in the algorithm. 5. Brandon Flynn, the boy next door who refused to be neutral. Brandon Flynn looks like the classic Netflix crush. Soft eyes, messy hair, the boy next door who says, "Are you okay?" and almost means it too much. In 13 Reasons Why, he played Justin Foley, the broken jock drowning in secrets. Off-screen, he was watching a different debate, his own community being voted on like a policy choice. During Australia's same-sex marriage vote, Brandon, then dating Sam Smith, still new to fame, posted a furious, shaky message. He wrote about seeing "Vote No" written across the sky and realizing it wasn't abstract. It was aimed at people like him. That post shattered the polite, PR-approved version of him. Suddenly, he wasn't just that cute guy from Netflix. He was loudly, politically, inconveniently gay. The backlash came on cue. Some fans told him to stick to acting. Others turned him into clickbait. Sam Smith's ex. Now, as he takes on roles that circle queer history, like stories hinting at James Dean's hidden desires, he's part of a new argument. Is exploring possible queer pasts an act of honoring or of rewriting men who never got to speak? That tension is exactly why Brandon matters. He's not just coming out. He's refusing to be quiet about what that means in law, in love, in memory. So what do you think? Should queer actors push into these dangerous, half-documented stories, or leave ghosts alone if they never said the words themselves? If his anger and tenderness resonate with you, drop a 5 in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. And if you believe queer joy and queer rage both deserve screen time, hit like, so the algorithm can't pretend we're not here. 6. Miles Heizer, the quiet kid who finally said gay out loud. Miles Heizer has been on camera most of his life. ER Parenthood, 13 Reasons Why. Always playing someone fragile, a little breakable, the kid who feels too much. For years, people thought that was just good acting. They didn't see the real boy behind it. Growing up in a conservative environment, holding a word in his chest like a live wire. Gay. Too dangerous to say, too painful to keep swallowing. When he finally came out, it wasn't with a big magazine spread. It was almost casual. A quiet confirmation in interviews, photos with his boyfriend, a soft, steady, "This is me." On the outside, nothing exploded. Inside, everything did. Freedom doesn't erase fear, it just lets you feel it in daylight. In casting rooms, some people celebrated. Others started seeing him only as the gay one. Perfect for trauma, addiction, tragic best friends. Less perfect suddenly for straight love stories studios still think pay the bills. And yet, look at what he chooses. Closeted athletes, queer soldiers, men trapped between loyalty and survival. Roles that sit in the same tight space he used to live in. Every time he does that, he risks being stuck in sad gay stories forever. But he also gives language and a face to kids still praying no one will ask them the wrong question at dinner. Here's the uncomfortable part. Are we part of the problem? Do we click more on queer misery than queer happiness? Then complain Hollywood only shows our pain. If you've ever stayed in the closet because you were scared of losing your family, drop a 6 in the comments. And if you want to see Miles play a queer character who gets the guy, keeps his joy, and doesn't have to die for drama, smash like and tell the industry you're ready for that ending too. 7. Joe Locke, the soft boy who refuses to apologize. Joe Locke didn't come from Hollywood royalty. He came from a tiny island where being different echoes louder than any hallway. In Heartstopper, he plays Charlie, anxious, overthinking, too kind for his own good. The twist is, he said that wasn't just acting. The bullying, the panic, the feeling that your existence is too much for a small place? That was Joe too. Hollywood loves him as the fragile gay kid. The problem is, it often stops there. He's talked about wanting to play action heroes, villains, macho roles. Not because he hates queer parts, but because he refuses to let the industry decide that softness and gayness are the only things he can bring to the table. For some people, that's inspiring. For others, it's unrealistic. Like, a gay boy can't be the one kicking down the door in the third act. Meanwhile, a show about kindness and consent gets attacked as too woke and too gay, as if queer teens don't already exist in real schools. They call it unrealistic that a boy like Charlie finds love, but somehow straight fairy tales are fine. Joe reads that, knows exactly which kids those comments are aimed at, and keeps going anyway. So what do you think? Should gay actors be allowed to play any role? Or should Hollywood keep them in the gay best friend box forever? If Joe's softness makes you feel seen instead of weak, drop a 7 in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. And if you want casting directors to finally think bigger, hit like and subscribe. Your click is one tiny push against a very old wall. 8. Freud Gutierrez, the horror heartthrob, who stopped being a question mark. For years, Freud Gutierrez was everyone's favorite mystery. The pretty face from Teen Wolf, Cruel Summer, and horror movies, the Tumblr edits, the fanfics, the is he or isn't he? Debates. Latino, white passing, raised around macho expectations. He learned early that survival meant shrinking. Don't be too loud about your culture, your feelings, or your softness. Hollywood rewarded that mystery. He got the roles. The confusing friend, the closeted boy, the heartthrob you're not allowed to define. Then, he did something braver than any jump scare. He stopped hiding. A kiss with actor Zane Phillips at Pride? Photos together? A quiet, "this is my life," instead of a press-managed reveal. No big speech, no label shoved into a headline, just two men in love in public. The internet, of course, split. Some fans celebrated. Others got weirdly territorial, angry their fantasy crush was now a real gay man with a boyfriend. A few even accused him of using queerness for clout, as if coming out in a notoriously macho, whitewashed industry is some easy career move. Look at what he's choosing now. Queer-leaning stories, talking about his Mexican roots, being honest about how racism and homophobia twisted his self-image. He's not just hot, he's healing in front of us. So tell us honestly, did you like him more when he was a question mark? Or do you respect him more now he's answered it on his own terms? If his hard launch happiness gave you a little hope, drop an 8 in the comments. And if you want more beautiful boys choosing truth over mystery, hit like and subscribe. That's how we tell Hollywood this is the story we're here for. 9. Colton Haynes, the teen wolf who ran from himself, then turned back. At his peak, Colton Haynes was everywhere. Teen Wolf, Arrow, convention lines around the block. On paper, he was the perfect 2010s heartthrob. Abs, smirk, no comment when asked about his love life. Off paper, agents were telling him what so many young actors still hear. If people know you're gay, this all disappears. So he played along. PR-friendly dates with women, smiling through questions, watching old modeling photos leak and pretending it didn't feel like someone dangling his truth above a shredder. The more famous he got, the more his real life shrank. Anxiety, addiction. His body started screaming what his mouth couldn't say. When he finally came out, it wasn't a glossy, I always knew story. It was tired, raw, tangled up with rehab and breakdowns. And yes, the momentum shifted. The superhero buzz cooled. People will swear it's coincidence. Maybe part of it is. But when he says he was told to butch it up and saw jobs vanish, it's hard not to connect the dots. The saddest part? All those queer kids with his posters on their walls would have loved him just as much, maybe more, if he'd been free sooner. He didn't just lose roles. We lost years with an honest version of him. If Colton's story feels like proof that the closet is not protection, but a slow kind of self-harm, drop a 9 in the comments. And if you're proud of him for still being here, still working, still trying to build something after all that, hit like and subscribe. Let's show Hollywood there is an audience for queer survivors, not just queer sidekicks. 10. Connor Jessup, the storyteller who put shame in the script, not in his heart. Connor Jessup could have stayed safe. Indie cred from Closet Monster and American Crime, mainstream success with Locke and Key. Perfect setup for a don't ask, don't tell career. Play queer on screen, stay vague off screen, keep everyone comfortable. Instead, he opened Instagram and wrote a long, shaking essay that didn't just say, "I'm gay." It said, "I've been living with shame for years, and I'm done letting it run the show." He admitted he'd avoided queer stories in his own life because they hit too close, that he'd swallowed homophobia so deeply it started to feel like part of his personality. That coming out wasn't a glitter moment, it was prying someone else's hands off his throat. That honesty was messy, un-PR friendly, and exactly what so many of us needed to hear. Since then, he's made it clear. He doesn't just want to be a gay actor. He wants to be a queer storyteller, directing shorts, centering Asian and global queer stories, using interviews to talk about representation that feels like oxygen, not homework. That makes some people roll their eyes. Too political, too much. They want the fantasy, not the real man with opinions. But if he'd stayed silent, the shame would still be eating him from the inside. Instead, he turned it into art, and that's what changes cultures, slowly, stubbornly. If Connor's decision to come out in his own words makes it even 1% easier for you to write yours, drop a 10 in the comments. And if you want more actors who bring their whole, unedited selves to the screen, hit like and subscribe. This channel is for you, the ones who stay to the end, who know every view and every sub is a tiny rebellion against the version of Hollywood that pretended we didn't exist. These 10 aren't the only young gay stars fighting to exist on their own terms. They're just the ones we could fit into one video. Their careers aren't guaranteed. Their safety isn't guaranteed. But your attention. That's power. Tell us in the comments which number felt like you or who we should add in part 2. Drop your country, smash like, and subscribe so queer stories don't disappear when the trend fades. You made it to the end. You're part of this change now.